To put it plainly, the Earth is getting warmer. Greenhouse gases are trapping the sun's heat in our atmosphere, and we're now starting to experience some astronomical temperatures. Even if you're not convinced that we're in danger, it's hard to ignore what you're about to learn. From the 2017 Arizona heatwave to the 2015 heatwave in Pakistan, here are 15 hottest temperatures ever recorded on Earth. Number 15. Furnace Creek. In August 2020, Death Valley National Park in California experienced what may have been the highest temperature ever reliably recorded on Earth. During a heat wave on the west coast, Furnace Creek in Death Valley reached an incredible 130 degrees Fahrenheit, or 54.4 degrees Celsius. It was so hot in California that a power plant malfunctioned, leading to 2 days of blackouts in California. A national park employee said that she spends a lot of time indoors, as it's far too uncomfortable to be outside. She said, and that wasn't even the worst part. During the heat wave, and while temperatures continued to rise, Lassen County experienced a massive firenado. As if a tornado wasn't destructive enough, these beasts now catch fire? It's not the first time Furnace Creek raised eyebrows with its temperature either. I mean, just look at what the place is called. Furnace. The highest recorded temperature on Earth was in Death Valley in 2013, which was 129.2 degrees Fahrenheit, or 54 degrees Celsius. A disputed temperature of 134 Fahrenheit was also recorded a century earlier. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now. Number 14. Arizona heat wave. There's no easier way to spot a changing climate than by looking at what went down in Arizona in 2017. Arizona has always been notoriously hot in summer, but this is just incredible. In the last 20 years, only 38 days reached temperatures of over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, or 38 degrees Celsius. In 2017, Phoenix experienced 110 days with those same temperatures. Some thermometers even measured temperatures as high as 120 degrees Fahrenheit, or 48.8 degrees Celsius. People drove with oven mitts on to protect their hands, and homeowners put cardboard over their windows to block out the heat. Even the scorpions weren't having much fun, and were resorting to hanging out in swimming pools for relief. It wasn't uncommon to see people frying eggs on sidewalks, watching traffic lights sag, and seeing their plastic trash bins melt before their very eyes. It was definitely a summer for daily ice cream treats, but it was quite a severe situation. The tourism business struggled since people weren't venturing outside, and even planes were grounded. People also died, so hot temperatures can definitely have more of an impact than we might think. Number 13. Ouargla. In July 2018, Ouargla, Algeria recorded its hottest temperature ever, a crazy 124.3 degrees Fahrenheit, or 51.3 degrees Celsius. At the time, Northern Africa was experiencing a horrific heat wave. Well, duh. You may wonder why hot temperatures in Africa are noteworthy, especially as they frequently experience heat waves over there. However, many record-breaking temperatures in Africa have not been reliably measured. For once, this one was. In 1931, a temperature of 131 degrees Fahrenheit was recorded in Kebele, Tunisia. However, the more reliable tech of today produced record highs in this area of 119.3 degrees Fahrenheit in 2007, followed by 118.8 degrees. This is a far cry short of the previous supposed record of 131 degrees. Many supposed official readings throughout Africa were made at or near French or Italian military outposts. These were later investigated to be inaccurate. So, it stands to reason that many previous temperature records should be taken with a grain of salt. One of the most notorious supposed records was the 136.4 degrees Fahrenheit temperature in September 1922 in El Aziza, Libya. For 90 years, it stood as the hottest recorded temperature in the world, although it was later investigated and cast down. Number 12. 2015 India-Pakistan. Heatwave 2015 proved to be a particularly challenging year for Indian and Pakistan residents living on the Indian subcontinent. From April to June, over 1,100 deaths in Pakistan and more than 2,500 in India were reported to have been caused by periods of extreme heat. It's not that people aren't used to heat waves in Pakistan and India, but this one was something completely different. Typically, pre-monsoon rains provide some relief, but a high-pressure system over the continent ended up keeping the rain away. And that's when people started to die. Most died from heat stroke, dehydration, and heat exhaustion, particularly in areas where the surface air temperatures hovered between 104 and 113 degrees Fahrenheit, which is between 40 and 45 degrees Celsius. By June, monsoon rains arrived in India, but many of Pakistan's provinces were unable to benefit from them before the deadliest heat wave in their history killed 1,100 people. When you live in coastal cities, you tend to expect a bit of a cooling sea breeze, but that didn't arrive either. The coastal city of Karachi wasn't able to experience sea breezes for most of June because of a low-pressure system. So temperatures peaked in this city alone at 112.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Number 11. Kuwait. In June 2019, parts of Kuwait experienced some of the world's highest recorded temperatures, and we can only imagine just how uncomfortable that would have been. Kuwait's northern region of Mitrabah saw highs of 51.4 degrees Celsius, which is 124.52 degrees Fahrenheit. In second place was Sulaybiya in Kuwait, with highs of 50.9 degrees, or 123.62 degrees Fahrenheit. Among the 15 regions throughout the world to experience the highest temperatures, 5 of them were in Kuwait. As you can imagine, getting anything achieved would be a nightmare in such heat. As a result, laws were being drafted so that government departments could perform public works during the evening hours. In saying that, this Western Asian country is no stranger to hot weather. Their summers are known to be some of the hottest on Earth, and they also have hot and dry winds in spring through to early summer. If you think heat is bad enough, Kuwait also experiences dramatic sandstorms. Imagine trying to manage the heat while sand is being blown in your face. At least their winters tend to be colder than other coastal countries like Qatar and Bahrain, so they do get some relief throughout the year. Number 10. Warm oceans. What do you think of when you hear the word ocean or sea? Aside from sharks, I think of how utterly cold the water must be, and how you'd never want to fall off a boat in the ocean or you'll get hypothermia and die. But then I heard that some oceans and seas reach some incredible temperatures, to the point where if you hopped out of your spa pool and into the ocean, you might not notice much difference. Except for all the marine creatures, of course. In summer, the surface water temperatures in some parts of the Persian Gulf can reach up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. In the Red Sea, it's even hotter, with a small area reaching temperatures of up to 132.8 degrees Fahrenheit, at a depth of approximately 6,500 feet. And here's me thinking that most of the ocean was just like the scenes from the Titanic. In most parts of the open ocean, maximum temperatures are reached north of the equator. The zone of these temperatures actually moves with the seasons. However, you may also find some pretty peculiar temperatures south of the equator as well. Sadly, this might be a sign of what's yet to come. Number 9. Boiling Lake of Dominica. One place you possibly don't expect to record some of the hottest temperatures is inside a lake. But that's what you get at the Boiling Lake of Dominica, which is literally boiling. The temperature of the gray-blue bubbling water spanning about 200 feet across sits at around 90 degrees Celsius or 194 degrees Fahrenheit, receiving heat from gas and hot steam escaping from molten lava underneath. Most of the time, you can't really get a good look at the lake because it's partially obscured by a cloud of vapor. Even when the lake cools, it is not safe for a swim. At any time and without warning, it can start boiling again, turning you into human soup stock. Still, it is worth visiting, even if not for a dip. The boiling lake is located about a 3 or 4 hour one-way hike from the village of Lut and is positioned within the Mont Trapetan National Park. Imagine being the first person to locate this lake. You'd be so shocked and confused. Two Englishmen working in Dominica were the first to spot it in 1875. Later that year, an investigation was commissioned to find out more. They determined that the lake was up to 60 meters deep and had temperatures ranging from between 82 to 92 degrees Fahrenheit. Number 8. Iran. The city of Ahvaz in southwest Iran recorded its highest temperature yet, a scorching 129 degrees Fahrenheit or 53.88 degrees Celsius. At the time, it was also one of the world's hottest reliably measured temperatures and the highest in Asia for the month of June. According to a National Academy of Sciences report in 2016 and a 2015 study in Nature Climate Change, scorching heat is one of the most expected outcomes of the climate change that humans are causing. So we might need to get used to such temperatures in the very near future. In saying that, Iran has had a head start in many respects. It has one of the most diverse climates in the world, but the west part of Iran sees average temperatures of up to around 38 degrees Celsius. The coastal plains in the south also experience mild winters and brutally hot and humid summers. Surprisingly, even though Iran has experienced a lot of climate change, they are one of very few countries that haven't signed the Paris Agreement. This agreement is an international climate change treaty that was negotiated by 196 parties in 2015 in France. Number 7. Djibouti. When you compare the climate of the Horn of Africa country Djibouti to climates from most other parts of the world, you'll notice a lot of differences. If you don't have a head for climate conditions, just look at pretty much any weather graphic you can find. Most of it is in red. And red means hot. That's right, Djibouti is baking hot. According to some sources, the climate of this country is far warmer than most, but also has way less seasonal variation compared to the world's average. The mean daily temperature can be anywhere from 90 degrees to 160 degrees or from 32 to 41 degrees Celsius, except for at high elevation. If you live in Djibouti City, you can expect afternoon highs of between 82 to 93 degrees Fahrenheit. Although in Aralaf, which sits at a higher elevation, your maximum summer temperature might only be 30 degrees Celsius, or 86 degrees Fahrenheit. In the coldest months of the year, you still see temperatures that other countries would class as warm. Winter may only get as cold as 48 degrees Fahrenheit. On the eastern seaboard, they also only see rainfall of about 5 inches a year. Number 6. Qatar. If you want to be sweating like Lithuanian strongman Žydrūnas Savikas after a championship win, then move to Qatar. Day and night, people are living in unbearably uncomfortable conditions, with temperatures reaching up to 50 degrees Celsius, or 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperatures very rarely drop below 90 degrees Fahrenheit at night, which means most people probably don't sleep without some form of air conditioning. Speaking of air conditioning, this Middle Eastern nation has taken a unique approach to solving their heat problem. They've installed air conditioning units in outside markets, malls, and stadiums. While this might provide a short-term fix for comfort, it's actually not helping the planet. They generate electricity with fossil fuels, which means Qatar is producing the very carbon emissions that are causing their residents to cook when they step outside. What's quite interesting is that the Paris Agreement signatories had agreed to try their best to prevent temperatures rising 2 degrees above the pre-industrial levels. However, Qatar has already exceeded that threshold. According to Earth climate data scientist Zeke Housefather, Qatar is one of the fastest warming areas worldwide. Well, at least outside of the Arctic. That's a scary sentence. Number 5. Australia. You don't even really need to narrow down a particular state or region in Australia. The whole place is just hot. It's darn hot. In December 2019, they experienced their hottest day on record throughout the country, with the average temperature reaching 40.9 degrees Celsius, up by 0.6 of a degree in 2013. That means that the entire country was experiencing a temperature of 105.62 degrees Fahrenheit on average. Now that's just nuts. According to Australian Bureau of Meteorology meteorologist Diana Eadie, the hot air mass was extensive, and the heat was set to intensify. She also said that at the time, central and southern Australian temperatures were going to be up to 16 degrees higher than normal. Parts of Queensland saw temperatures of a whopping 47.7 degrees Celsius, while roughly 46.9 degrees Celsius was experienced across western, southern, and central Australia. That's about 116 degrees Fahrenheit. However, that's not even the hottest some parts of Australia have ever been, even if it is the highest average temperature so far. The desert settlement in outback South Australia was once reliably recorded as being 50.7 degrees Celsius, or 123.26 degrees Fahrenheit, in January of 1960. Number 4. El Aziza. El Aziza in Libya used to hold the title for the world's hottest temperatures before that title was given to Death Valley in California. But it wasn't necessarily because Death Valley blew El Aziza out of the water, but because the last temperature wasn't seen as accurate. But let's give this small Libyan town credit where credit's due. It's probably hotter than many places you've ever visited before. It's like you need to drink a glass of milk just to breathe in the hot air. El Aziza, which also gets called Azizia, is a small town in northwestern Libya, about 25 miles from Tripoli. The Köppen climate classification states that it has a hot, semi-arid climate, which is perhaps why for 9 decades, the supposed world's hottest temperature of 136.4 degrees there was considered legitimate. Even during winter, the average highs are temperatures you're more likely to experience in summer in other countries. From December to March, residents get to enjoy warm temperatures of between 64.9 degrees and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. By the time the warmer weather hits, people are melting away to nothing from around May until October, with averages in the high 90s. Number 3. Canada. Deadly Canada heatwave. Canadians were not having a great time in June 2021, when Canada experienced a heatwave so severe it shattered previous temperature records. Over 130 people died, with most of them having underlying health conditions or being old, with heat a contributing factor. For 3 days straight in June, temperatures were in the high 121s, particularly around Lytton in British Columbia. Weather experts were also scrambling to make sense of it. Before that June, temperatures in Canada had never exceeded 45 degrees Celsius or 113 Fahrenheit, but now they were edging closer to 50. In Vancouver, heat contributed to about 65 people's deaths, and one police officer said he had never experienced such volume of sudden deaths in his entire 15-year career. A British Columbia chief coroner also said that about 100 more deaths than normal were reported in a single week. Many Canadians said it was almost impossible to go outside, and they were struggling with inside temperatures as well. Hotels booked out fast, as residents were taking advantage of air conditioning since most houses in Canada don't have them and usually don't need them. Number 2. Lut Desert and Sonoran Desert. Even though Death Valley in California is our current hottest place on Earth, that doesn't mean the Lut Desert in Iran and Sonoran Desert in North America pale in comparison. In fact, if high-res satellite data captured over the last 2 decades are anything to go by, your ice cream would melt quite quickly in these desert environments as well. Data shows that both of these regions can heat up to 177.4 degrees Fahrenheit, or 80.8 degrees Celsius. That's because Death Valley temperatures just consider the air temperature, whereas the surface is also worth considering. Studies on the Lut Desert determined that it was one of the most scalding places on Earth, with sand temperatures reaching at least 159 degrees Fahrenheit. However, one paper said that's likely an underestimate. NASA's data shows it might actually be 10 degrees higher than that. Almost equally as hot as the Sonoran Desert around the border of the United States and Mexico. Heat gets trapped within it due to the mountainous surroundings. Let's just say you can't walk in any of these places with bare feet. Number 1. Athens. We often hear about the Middle East being one of the hottest places on Earth. But how often do you find yourself reading anything about Athens? Turns out this place is hot as heck too. From June to September, the average daily high is above 29 degrees Celsius, or 84 Fahrenheit. The hottest days tend to be in around July. Typically, all summers in Athens are hot and dry, with long, cold, and windy winters to give you some respite from the intensity of the sunshine. Surprisingly though, Athens is quite a wet place too. The wetter season lasts for almost 6 months from October to April, with a 15% chance of wetness on most days. This peaks at about a 25% chance in November. The drier season lasts for 6.1 months from April to October, with only a 3% chance of rain on most of these days. During the peak of summer, people living in Athens get to enjoy up to nearly 15 hours of sunshine, with the longest day on June 21st featuring 14 hours and 48 minutes of daylight. Even though we still have our fair share of cold days, you'd have to be living under a rock not to notice that our hottest temperatures just seem to keep getting hotter. Do you live in any of these places that we've just mentioned? What's it like for you during peak temperatures? Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you next time.